182 more days till Starfield releases, a month until the gameplay reveal. It is going to be a good.
You silly boy.
Who the hell are you?
Why, you're looming disappointment, my dear boy.
No, just right off, mate. It's gonna, the channel's growing. There's no looming disappointment here. Channel's growing, Starfield's releasing, reveal in a month. It's a good time to be a Bethesda fan.
Well, have you checked Twitter this morning, my dear boy?
No, I haven't checked Twitter yet. I just woke up, mate.
Well, you might want to get on that then.
What have you done?
Don't worry.
What have you done?
Doodles!
What have you done? What have you done? What have you done, Bethesda? What happened? What happened? What took me by... I'm sure all of you have heard the news. I'm late to this video, and journalists and content creators alike have just swarmed this news bit like vultures, rightfully so. It's probably one of the biggest headlines we've gotten in quite some time. Starfield and Redfall officially delayed, which means no big Xbox titles releasing in 2022. Now, 2023, on the other hand, is going to be amazing, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But 2022, barren when it comes to Xbox. And what surprised me most by this delay was actually Lone Vault Wanderer's reaction to it. Former Bethesda employee now talking about how this was completely out of left. He doesn't know where this came from. Everything leading up until his departure was that Starfield would be able to make that 11/11 release date. And he made an excellent video about it. I highly recommend, if you haven't, go check it out. But man, this hurts. This hurts. It's a video I didn't want to have to make. It hurts right here because it's human nature to want to be able to point a finger and go, this was you, it's your fault. And in this case, we can't. What are we supposed to get angry at Bethesda? How dare you not crunch your employees to make an artificial marketing deadline? I want the game now, damn it. Like, no, that'd be ridiculous. That'd be absurd. And aside from covering the things you've already heard before, the delay is good for the game, we get a more polished experience, yada yada yada, we're going to be going a little bit more in depth than that. In today's video, we're going to be talking about, yes, we'll go over the official delay announcement, but we'll also be talking about what this means for Starfield. What are the ramifications of a delay like this? Because it's not just, oh, we push back the game, no big deal. There's more to it, and there's expectations that come as a result of a delay. What it means for the future of BGS games and future releases, and also, what about the marketing of Starfield? Is there going to be any changes? What will they have to do differently in order to keep players invested? A lot to get into today. So, without further ado, I hope that all of you enjoyed this video. This one sucks. The official statement reads as follows. We've made the decision to delay the launches of Redfall and Starfield to the first half of 2023. The teams at Arcane Austin, Redfall, and Bethesda Game Studios Starfield have incredible ambitions for their games, and we want to ensure that you receive the best, most polished versions of them. We want to thank everyone for their excitement for Redfall and Starfield. That energy is a huge part of what inspires all of us every day and drives our own excitement for what we are creating. We can't wait to share our first deep dive into the gameplay for both Redfall and Starfield soon. Thank you for your support. So nothing in here in this delay statement that we haven't heard from other delay statements. The most stressful thing being that I think most gamers are tired of delays. We've seen them all throughout 2021. We're seeing them all throughout 2022, even till 2020. But just probably was a mistake to announce the release date. And I know Todd Howard was confident, and I know what Lone Vault Wanderer said in his video. But at this point in time, I think a lot of fans would be willing to say, hey, you didn't give a release date? That's totally fine. Or you just gave a year for the release date? Even then, you got to be careful. But once you're getting close to the release, what Bethesda normally does, where they say, oh, by the way, it's releasing in 5 months. Because the fact of the matter is, if Bethesda hadn't announced that 11/11, they could have kept that release date internal. They didn't have to share it with us. They could have kept it internal, but they chose because they were confident. Had they kept it internal, the game still could have been delayed until 2023, and we would have been none the wiser. The other big thing, too, is they said the first half of 2023, so that could mean anywhere up until June. It might be more than a year until we get Starfield released, which is pretty crazy to think about if it is a year-long delay. I suspect it won't be that long, especially, again, going back to what Lone said, if he was that confident they could make it, there's probably just some smaller tweaks that they really need to get right. And this is a good thing, because Bethesda understands they can't pull another Fallout 76. Bethesda really seemed to learn their lesson that they can't just throw a game out and expect fans to eat it up because it's coming from Bethesda, right? It's, yes, they have built up that credibility, and we've accepted the bugs in the past, but it's not, it's another thing to just say, here's a buggy game, it's fine, we'll patch it. They've learned their lesson, which is good to see, and I'm happy about that. However, now, if Starfield releases sometime in 2023, and we still get a buggy launch after that delay, we're in for some trouble. The big thing, and now that we're getting to the ramifications of delays, the big thing is now we expect a more polished experience. Because why else are they delaying the game? To fix up bugs, of course. It's possible they might be fine-tuning the flight mechanics in the game, as we saw from previous Starfield leaks, that manual spaceflight is more or less confirmed, but wasn't all that fun. Maybe they're trying to tweak it. Maybe they're still trying to improve it. Totally fine. I'm happy to see that they're making improvements to the game, and if that requires more time, so be it. However, it does come with the expectation that when it does release, it will be a pretty polished experience. And for a Bethesda game, we have to keep in mind, a game that is as large as Bethesda games are, a game that is as ambitious as Starfield claims to be, bugs are really tricky. Keep in mind that even Elden Ring, as praised as it was, wasn't free of bugs. Elden Ring had its fair share of problems, especially performance problems on PC. Was quite a disaster at times when I played it before the patches started coming out. Quite literally, Elden Ring's multiplayer aspect allowed people to invade other players' games and crash their game, or teleport them to the other side of the map. There was broken NPC quest lines. There was a lot of issues. There were quests that you just could not flat out do because Elden Ring released. No game is impervious to these, but when you have a delay like this, it again comes with the expectation that it's going to be fixed, that those problems will be far minimal as possible. Still not perfect, and I don't want to mislead fans that we're going to get a perfect bug-free release, because again, the scope and scale of an open world game is just monumental. But it should be higher quality than what we've seen in the past, not just from Fallout 76, but from Skyrim and Fallout 4 even. This sets up a scary precedent for the future of Bethesda Game Studios titles. Now, I know not every single Bethesda game is going to require a massive engine overhaul, and keep in mind, Bethesda's still probably adapting to that growth spurt, and now on top of the growth spurt, where they've been buying all new studios and expanding, and their team has grown exponentially, now we have all the Microsoft buyout and stuff going on that end. So there's a lot of changes going on within Bethesda internally, and that's not usually the case, and that's on top of the new engine and all the new systems and the photogrammetry that they're using, right? New technology that they need to learn. So there is a ton going on internally at Bethesda. That's not always going to be the case, but we're looking at 8 years since the last mainline Bethesda Game Studios release. 8. Fallout 4 released in 2015, and I know Fallout 76 came out, but that wasn't a mainline. It was an overhauled version of the Fallout 4 engine. 8 years. And what does that mean for Elder Scrolls 6? Which might not release until 2027 or 2028. And then Fallout 5, we're looking in 2030s until Fallout 5. Like, the release cadence of Bethesda games is absolutely astronomical. And I think Lone pointed out in this video, what does that mean if people really like Starfield? If Starfield takes off and it becomes one of people's favorite Bethesda games of all time, it replaces maybe Elder Scrolls for some or Fallout for some, and now Starfield's up there, do we have to wait 12 years until we see, not a decade, until we see until we see the next release of Starfield, until Starfield 2? Like, the release of these games is absolutely astronomical. And I'm not saying I want Bethesda to rush their process. I'm not saying I want Bethesda to really start just shoehorning these games. But now that you're bouncing between 3 different IPs, and there's fan bases that are inevitably going to identify more with one of them than others and are really eagerly, like, I like Fallout, but I'm waiting for Elder Scrolls 6, and there's plenty of other people out there like me. That is absolutely ludicrous to think about. But this is the state that Bethesda seems to be in. Unless they can, again, adapt with the acquisition of Microsoft, they can supplement their teams to make new experiences where they have an Elder Scrolls team and a Fallout team and a Starfield team all working on projects to release at a more frequent cadence. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty painful for fans of Bethesda titles. But what about the marketing for Starfield? Because now Bethesda no longer has that nice little short release window between the full reveal and the game. And that's pretty bad because they have to stretch that out. So maybe it admittedly works in our favor. We'll get more trailers than we normally would leading up so that Bethesda can continuously keep fans' interest throughout 2023. Keep in mind, we might be looking at June of 2023, more than a year from now. Maybe is when Starfield. I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that March, April would be a good release window for the game. It's still within reason, and especially if the big focus for Bethesda is either bugs or small tweaks that they're making to the game, then it makes sense that it shouldn't need that full year. And we're still talking about a sizable amount of time that the game's getting pushed back. I think that's a reasonable window. I would hope that's a reasonable window, but again, they need all the time they can get. All of the marketing that Bethesda's been doing so far for Starfield has been leading up to this June 12th showcase. We saw in their announcement that they are going to continue to stick to that gameplay soon, which we know is June 12th. Whether or not we're going to get that larger 30-minute demo, which I've been a supporter of from the get-go, that the 30-minute showcase for Starfield, probably not. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if that demo is now going to be shortened to 10 minutes or even less, possibly at this point, just because, well, they want to save some for later that they're going to show off. This is still Starfield's big moment. This is still Starfield's debut, and they need to make it special, but there's nothing saying they can't do that with a 10-minute gameplay demo and saving some more features for follow-up interviews and stuff later on to stretch it over that longer window. That being said, there's still a little bit of sliver of hope, and I'll tell you why. Always trying to look on the positive side. These demos, even if the game wasn't delayed, are typically run on older builds of the game, which means they possibly have all the footage they need already, or there's still some that's left to capture, but for the most part, it's done. It's ready, and they're just recording from an older build. They don't need to use, nor do they want to use, the most recent version of Starfield, because if they're trying to capture footage of a particular element, there's more that can go wrong. There's more bugs that can occur. It's simply less stable. Therefore, we might have everything we need to continue to get that same, nothing might change, as far as we know. And if it does change, we still won't know. I just think we'll be a wee bit more disappointed coming off of it. Lone's video really hit home the fact that he was just so surprised by this delay, that this game was, up until he left, supposed to be hitting 11:11, and it was ready to hit 11:11, and now it's not. And so I'm really curious what is going wrong with the game. And I don't like to say what's going wrong, but what needs to be fixed about the game, what needs to be improved, what isn't right that requires this delay. Exactly could have went wrong, I think, is a big question we have to ask. It's possible it's just bug fixes and polish. That would be great. That'd be excellent. That's what we're hoping to see, is that the game really just needed that extra level of polish. Could also be feature creep, right? The final product of Starfield is much outside of the original scope of the game, and thus it's taken more time to develop. Entirely possible. Happens all the time in game development. And if I wanted to put kind of a far out there guess as to what I think it might be, maybe they're actually removing a feature. And the one that comes to mind, obviously, is the manual spaceflight. The leaker, and this was just his opinion, but he said that it wasn't that fun. So maybe Bethesda realized it actually isn't. They're trying to take it out of the game. Now they need to work around that. They need to develop new systems to compensate for the lack of this mechanic that they wanted in. Although, again, that's just kind of my far speculation. And when are we going to find out when it's coming out now? I don't mind waiting. I'm more patient than I think a lot of other people. So it's fine by me, but I'm still curious. Even more so that we won't be seeing Fallout, the next Fallout, until the 2030s is... I can't even fathom it. Like, where will the channel be by then? What will be going on with me, the channel, with you guys? You know, with Bethesda, is Todd Howard still going to be there? Like, so many questions and so few answers, and only time, that devil time, will tell. And just as hard as it is for us to hear this news, it's just as hard for Bethesda to make this decision and for Xbox to make this decision, especially compounded by the fact that they don't have any big releases this year. So this wasn't an easy decision to make. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts about all of this down in the comment section below, and I hope to see you all next time. Now we'll definitely get to 1,000 subscribers before the release, though, so that's pretty cool. We'll see how big the channel can grow until then. So long, everybody.